As NBA fans, we are extremely spoiled with this Western Conference Finals. Matchup between two teams who have two superstars who really look like they are the future of the league, up there with Wemby and Luka Doncic, as these older guys are starting to retire and kind of hit their decline and getting past their prime. Shea versus Anthony Edwards is obviously the headline of this series, but these two teams match up in particularly weird ways, and in a weird way they are very similar. If you look at these strengths and weaknesses for both of these teams, you can see that OKC will start off with their strengths. They are very, very elite defensively. This is one of the best defenses of the modern era, and the stats back up that as well as the eye test. They create turnovers at an insane rate, creating 10.6 steals per game, which they are able to capitalize off of a lot. They score 24.7 points per game off of turnovers. That is amazing. That is 21% of their offense they are getting off of turnovers that lead to fast break points, that lead to transition triples, and just plays like that, getting to the free throw line and stuff like that. Their overall defense is elite. I put overall defense for one of their strengths, 101.6 defensive rating, but really their defense is out of this world. Like I said, one of the best, if not the best defense in the modern era. They have wing guys flying around. They have the second best rim protector in the league behind Victor Wembanyama in Chet Holmgren. They have a great interior defender in Isaiah Hartenstein, who can also do a little rim protection as well. J-Dub is an incredible defender. Lou Dort, Caruso, Kassan Wallace, Shea's a pretty good defender. Aaron Wiggins at times has good defensive moments. This team is well connected. It's kind of like when you're taught basketball, when you're doing a shell drill and you have to be on a string defensively. That is exactly what this team is, and every team should watch how the Thunder play defense because it is phenomenal. They limit three-pointers. Teams are only shooting 31.2% from three against this team, so they're closing out hard. They limit a lot of corner threes. They don't allow that to happen a ton, which makes sense when you think about what happened to them last year with P.J. Washington lighting them up from the corner. They take care of the ball, which when you can take care of the ball and make sure your opponent doesn't take care of the ball, create turnovers, get steals, just force them to make mistakes, that is really winning basketball. That's the reason why this team had the best net rating in NBA history in the regular season. They only turned the ball over 10.7% of the time, and then their paint scoring, not point scoring, they score 50.9 points per game in the paint, which is second in the NBA playoffs. And like I mentioned earlier, their defensive depth with Alex Caruso, Kassan Wallace, J-Dub, and Lou Dort, like, man, I could just go on. This team has so much depth defensively, and they fly around. They make life hell. You've seen what Caruso and the entire team did to Jokic in Game 7. It was absolutely phenomenal. For weaknesses of this Thunder team, which they don't have many, their three-point shooting is not good. As a team, they're shooting 31.9% from three, which is not phenomenal, to say the least. That is abysmal. And then an inconsistent second option in J-Dub, who had a really good Game 7, but he has not been up to standard of a second option on a 68-win team throughout these playoffs. Then again, to go back to that three-point shooting, they only have one guy shooting over 40% from three, and that's Alex Caruso. And I think the next closest is 37%, which is just not good at all. And then for the strengths and weaknesses for the Timberwolves, ignore some of these weaknesses for the Wolves. I don't know why those are there. I remember doing this, but I'll just talk about it. So ignore the graphic. But the strengths for the Wolves, paint protection. They protect the paint very well, which is fascinating when you look at the paint scoring for the Thunder at 51 points per game. These Wolves only allow 36.3 paint points per game, thanks to Rudy Gobert, who's an incredible rim protector and rim defender, one of the best defenders in the paint of all time. This team limits fast break points, just like the Thunder do. That's why I said in the intro, both these teams have some similarities in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. They move this ball very, very well at almost 25 assists per game in these playoffs. So it's not just a one-man show where Ant is averaging 40 points per game. He is having a pretty solid playoff run. He could be better, but He's having a pretty solid playoff run. This team moves the ball very well, with Mike Conley and Dante DiVincenzo being facilitators, and then Anthony Edwards has been an incredible facilitator in these playoffs, especially for his standards. This team crashes the offensive glass insanely well. Rudy Gobert, you've seen it. He has dominated some teams with his offensive rebounding. He's just bigger than some teams, and he uses that to his advantage. And then the next thing that's a strength for the Timberwolves is they have two 20-plus point per game scorers in Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. And that is just very needed in the playoffs. As you can see, like, one of the weaknesses for the Thunder is an inconsistent second option. That's not a problem. That's actually a strength for the Wolves. Julius Randle is having an incredible playoff run and has completely flipped the narrative that he's not a good offensive player, and well, in the playoffs at least. And he's struggled a lot with the Knicks. But if I've seen it correctly, he is, averaging, I believe, 7 more points per game in these playoffs than he did with the Knicks in the playoffs, which is incredible. He's been efficient, and he's been locked in defensively. I think that's maybe the biggest reason why the Wolves have made it this far. Another strength for this team is scoring off turnovers, much like the Thunder do, not to the same degree. They're still second in these playoffs at 18.5 points per game off turnovers. But, man, they can get out. They can run. They have great wing defenders like Gilgeous-Alexander Walker and Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. Those guys will get the job done. Paint scoring. This is another strength. This is the best team in the playoffs at scoring in the paint, and you can see why. They really get downhill. Ant does a great job of getting downhill, and if your help defender is not good enough or your rim protection is not good enough, Anthony Edwards is just going to go and finish. Now, he has struggled at times, especially in that Warriors series at finishing at the rim, which was weird, but in Game 5 he was good, so it looks like he's back to normal in that scoring range. And then the 6th, 7th, and 8th men for the Wolves. This might be the best 6, 7, 8, like the best 8-man rotation in the league. You could definitely make the argument for the Thunder. But having Naz Reid as your 6th man, Dante DiVincenzo off the bench, and Gilgeous-Alexander Walker, the Wolves often only run an 8-man rotation, and really, out of necessity they have to, but even if they had some solid other role players, they still probably would run an 8-man rotation because it is a phenomenal 8-man rotation. So those guys are going to get the job done. And then some weaknesses for this team, like I said, don't look at the graphic, did not carry over, but this team has struggled at times against the zone. Against the Warriors, they threw a zone at them for minutes at a time, and the Wolves' defense was so good, and they were also getting bailed out with just missed Warrior shots that it didn't matter that they weren't scoring on those zones. But yeah, they can struggle with those zones. And then I think another weakness is, what if those guys regress to the mean? Julius Randle, I still think he's going to have himself a good series. Anthony Edwards will have a good series. It's just going to be, maybe he's going to have to do it more in the mid-range. His three ball, it's phenomenal. He was the best three-point shooter in the league this year in terms of made threes, and he had, a pretty good percentage. Is he going to get those looks against the Thunder? Who knows? I'm not too confident in him getting great looks against the Thunder from 3. And then once you get downhill, you're going to be met by Chet Holmgren. So I think if they throw a zone at him, the Wolves are going to have to say, Ant, we need you to get in the mid-range and do some scoring. So that might be a weakness in theirs, just not having enough scoring in that zone. Overall, I think this series will really come down to just 2 guys from each team and the role players for those 2 guys. I think the Thunder, those 2 role guys that will need to step up. I think Aaron Wiggins is going to have to be phenomenal in this series. He's going to get a lot more playing time. And then I think Isaiah Joe will actually get playing time in this series as well. OKC is going to be able to go smaller against this Wolves team because they're going to run lineups with Naz Reid at center. And Naz Reid, he's a big guy in terms of how tall he is, but he's not really a center. He's more of a wing. He's about 6'9". So they're not going to have to run Jay Will on the floor that much. So really only having to run one center, Chet at the 4, they're going to be able to play smaller lineups, and I think that will be to their advantage. And then for the Timberwolves, 2 guys that I think will decide this series for them will be Dante DiVincenzo and Naz Reid. Like I said, those guys off the bench are phenomenal. But Naz Reid's going to have to shoot through this zone, and the same thing with Dante DiVincenzo. So if those guys are able to perform at a high level and you get great performances from Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, then yeah, you should be able to snag some games in this series. But ultimately, my final prediction for this series will be the Thunder in 6 games. And honestly, I could see them winning in 5. This team is phenomenal. Like I said, the zone that they're going to throw at the Wolves at times in this series is going to give them a lot of problems. And if I was them, I might just play a zone the whole game. They have so much depth defensively, which is something I don't know if we've ever seen before. Like, just in terms of having so many guys that can defend at a high level, I don't know if the Wolves are going to be able to deal with it. You have the best player in this series. I would say the Wolves probably have the second and third best player. But outside of that, I mean, the Thunder, man, they have a great team. They're going to be at home. They're experienced now. Like last round, they gained a ton of experience. I think they grew a lot as a team. And you'll see the Thunder really take care of business against this team. So I think they're going to advance to the NBA Finals. But let me know what you think down below. And what's your prediction? Just tell me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.